So PJ Fleck is a bozo. And I don't use that word lightly, but I'm trying to parse the vocabulary that we're supposed to use when I get a headline, as we often get these days, for what a culture is like underneath a certain football coach.
Did you do that ironically? He's a bozo? Like, do you get the show as deep as I think you do? Because we used to have a caller, Arash, and okay, you are doing a thing?
I just want to point out that my glasses are on because I slept in my contacts, not because I waked and baked.
I thought they were on because you went to Harvard.
Also that.
It could be both, yeah.
Hartford.
Day one caller, Arash, used to call PJ. He would call in just to say
he was a prophet, dude.
PJ Fleck is a bozo is what he would say and then hang up. So I just wanted to know if you were doing a thing.
I was doing a bit of a thing, but also I'm trying to figure out what the vocabulary word is, executive producer Chris Cody, for when you get a headline that says toxic culture. But there are degrees of toxic, right? And so is this a Northwestern scandal? Is this an Iowa scandal? Is this a Penn State scandal? What kind of scandal are we dealing with? And so thank God Lucy Rodin is here to explain, our PJ Fleck correspondent, what the hell has been going on under noted bozo PJ Fleck at Minnesota.
I feel like every year we get a sort of PJ Fleck hit piece where it's like, that guy is crazy and toxic and a cult leader. Yeah, he always has been. Like, I read that whole thing and was like, okay, yeah, that's PJ Fleck.
Death, taxes, and that.
Exactly. Like, he's such a weird dude. Like, this definitely came on the heels of Northwestern, where you saw, the student journalists come together and, bring to light what was happening under Pat Fitzgerald. So it was just kind of like riding on the coattails of that. I don't think it was nearly as severe. There were definitely things in here that weren't okay. Where, like, there's the Fleck Bank, which is like Shroot Bucks I'm picking up on, where you could, like, earn money or whatever currency in the Fleck Bank and then use it to get out of like a failed drug test.
So just to be clear, the type of college football coach we're dealing with is a sort of guy who brands a currency that he names after himself that he uses to enforce seemingly serious things, or at least things that are serious to him.
That is so PJ Fleck. He brands everything. If you go to Minnesota Stadium and you like walk underneath, there are oars everywhere because of his row the boat, like his little saying. He loves the word elite. Like, he is a cult leader. When I read that term, I was like, yes. And I think the perfect example of it is the story of where he would walk into a room with his players and require them to give him a standing ovation. Oh my God.
This is moving too fast.
Yeah, we got to slow this down. We got to row the boat less fast.
I need more info on these bucks. Before we get to the standing ovation, what are these called? The Fleck
bank.
Bucks?
It was the Fleck Bank.
The Fleck Bank. Do you get Fleck bucks that you put in the Fleck Bank?
Maybe Fleckles?
They never specified what the currency was, but it was in the Fleck Bank. So I imagine
what if it's just dollars?
Yeah, maybe it's
Fleck
just actual
coin?
money. Maybe you just pay them.
Do they offer?
There it is. We were spitballing, and you won.
That's a good one.
CDs, bonds, or is it just a savings account?
Can I put my Fleck bucks into mutual funds is the question we're asking here today on this show. But hold on.
What's the exchange rate? I'm just curious. I want to know about this bank.
How stable are Fleck bucks, Fleck coin?
Well, he's been there for a couple years, so I think they're pretty stable if you're in the football program, where I'm sure they carry over. But it seems like the only currency they had in this article was to get out of drug tests.
So this is the key part about this exchange rate.
Yeah.
Is that you do good things and you get out of bad things.
Yes.
Which is a pretty key component to, I think, a more crypto vibe. Like, there's a dark money aspect to this. It's not like when you would make a fake coupon book for your parents when you're giving them a birthday gift, and it's like one free hug. We're talking about something that's a little more deliberate in terms of what you get out of this if you're a college football player in trouble.
Yeah, PJ Fleck is absolutely a crypto guy. You can just take one look at him and be like, yep, 100%. I think what's so, interesting about this article was that, okay, if you do good, you get a Fleck buck. If you do bad, you have to go through extra exercise as a punishment. And that's something that the entire Minnesota athletics program got in trouble for a few years ago, of using extra workouts and, difficult workouts as a punishment when you mess up.
I think I gave my wife massage coupons 5 years ago. I don't think I've ever done it. I don't think she's ever cashed them in. They've expired at this point. I mean, geez.
The fine print has them expiring.
Cody Bank.
Kank.
One of my favorite things was that all the acronyms that he makes players memorize, which gave me Dabo Sweeney vibes. So I mean, it's not unique to PJ Fleck, but one of them was fist. Family invested same time. Quote, keep it tight. What does that mean? There was another one that was think. Truthful, helpful, inspirational, necessary, kind. And players had to memorize these in a binder that he would give them, apparently.
Oh, God. I like that it does feel like the floodgates have opened a
We
bit.
would have let that slide.
Yeah, Hartford.
I got one.
Oh, what do you got?
Sad, stupid, and dumb. That's what that is.
I can't tell if Roy just burned me or
No,
if
not
that's an
you.
actual
No,
thing.
not you. I'm talking about the PJ Fleck acronym thing.
That was a good one, Roy.
It really was. Whether or not it was meant to be.
That was the most Roy
It hit to the
acronym
core
of
of
all
me.
time. Sad, stupid, and dumb. Put that on a shirt.
It does feel like the floodgates have opened a bit as we get these stories. They're trying to figure out, as always, what are we supposed to do with this? And Lucy is indicating that PJ Fleck has been there for quite a long time. It does not feel like these rise to the level of ousting PJ Fleck. We're fairly certain that what we're going to do today is laugh, but it's not going to result in action because this is just what a college football coach does.
I don't know if that's necessarily true. So in reading the story from Front Office Sports yesterday, I also read a story in CBS that said that there was a memorandum that they received in 2018 in which a former employee warned the Minnesota Board of Regents of a toxic culture within the program. They said that student athletes' health and welfare were at risk. They said that Minnesota medical staffers were illegally prescribing Toradol, which is something that we know is a very dangerous substance to use. And then there was another investigation by an independent firm into the culture of the football team. There was also a case in which players were suspended in 2017 ahead of a bowl game following the 2016 season in retaliation to a sexual assault investigation. So there's definitely a lot of things going on around this program that need to be looked at and investigated. Whether or not it's just silly shit like a binder full of acronyms or players being punished via workouts and physical, performance for physical, whatever, physical punishments
For not earning Fleck bucks.
Exactly. Those are definitely weird things. And if you want to make fun of PJ Fleck, yeah, you probably can make fun of 100 other college football coaches for doing that, which we should. We should make fun of all of them because
Yes,
they're very
and I
silly
plan
people.
to.
But it does seem like there are legitimate things and cause for concern, just like there probably are in also a lot of other college football locker rooms. And I think the fact that this Pat Fitzgerald investigation happened and he was fired, whether or not you think okay, this Front Office Sports story is a little silly, there's some ridiculous claims in it. It's important and I think good that players are willing to speak up and we can decide and universities can decide and fans can decide what we're cool with accepting in college football culture.
Well, that's the moment we're in, is that we're doing this exercise. We have to figure out, are we going to increase our sensitivity to things that would be abjectly absurd to do in a normal workplace? And so with PJ Fleck, what I find myself wondering is, okay, we're at this moment where the floodgates are opening, and it's just one of those. A locker room is one of those places where there are a zillion sources. It's easy to. I'm not saying it's easy to break these stories. It's taken quite a bit to get to the point of a Front Office Sports headline, which we're going to talk about today for quite a bit because there's a lot of funny and a lot of potentially disturbing, as Jess was alluding to. But it's also the thing of there are so many former players, and all of them went through this. That's the point. They all had to be indoctrinated into the culture of PJ Fleck. And it feels like the numbness that college football has to even the stupid shit that I cannot believe is real, these acronyms, this bank, it just feels like college football itself is not there with PJ Fleck has to go.
He's not leaving. Yeah, no, there's no way he doesn't keep his job after this because like I mentioned earlier, stuff like this comes out about PJ Fleck all the time. He's a very notably weird, odd dude. My first word to describe him, or two words, would be cult leader. And that's what they called him.
Your
in there.
numbness, by the way, to Jess's point, our collective numbness to yeah, he's a cult leader. is a little disturbing.
I think all college football coaches are. I also feel like all college football fans are also like willing
Cultists?
participants in the cult.
Yep.
I should clarify, the sexual assault thing was at Minnesota was something that happened. That was why PJ Fleck was brought in. That didn't happen while he was coaching there. But I'm pointing that out to point out the fact that these are things that have happened within the program in the past decade. He's been there since 2017. And so calling into question his punishment, his letting players, play despite drug tests and all of these things, are questioning if he's the right person to bring into a program that is going through this like humongous humiliation and scandal, and whether or not like anything has changed in Minnesota since he was brought in.
So what I did not appreciate until just now, I did not know this context, is that PJ Fleck, the Fleck Bank, was founded in response to a scandal that was disturbing enough to get the previous regime ousted. And if that's part of the story, this system in which I'm just trying to put together the exchange rate. So if you did community service, if you visited patients at the University of Minnesota Medical Center with PJ Fleck, you got Fleck bucks. You got Fleck coin.
You got drugs.
And in exchange, you got to redeem that for drugs.
Awesome.
There's a little Stugotz in PJ Fleck. I was going to point that out. But you were pointing out also, Lucy, that PJ Fleck as a character is somebody that you encountered before.
Yeah, so the story I kind of mentioned earlier of the standing ovation where he will walk into a room and force everyone to, stand up and cheer for him, and if it's not good enough, he will walk out and come back in. I've known about that for years. That is not a very well-kept secret. That's a very, PJ Fleck moment. He has this, wild persona with him where, before the fourth quarter of their games, he will sprint from one end of the field to the next. He is an odd dude. That's his whole, shtick.
I like the idea that there's a little Dabo Sweeney in PJ Fleck. There's a little Stugotz in PJ Fleck. There's a little Amin El Hassan in PJ Fleck, now that I'm thinking about it.
My favorite Dabo Sweeney acronym was when COVID happened, and he said he created the acronym TIGERS. This is going to end real soon.
Stupid and dumb. Sad.
Little Roy Belly.
That was a terrible setup by me.
Was that it?
Yeah.
We're actually doing this.
I was doing I was trying to doing some research here. I was kind of forming my list of top 5 worst names of college coaches because PJ Fleck, just not a great name.
It's not a great name, but it's
Fleck?
a very...
It's the
PJ?
Fleck.
It's a very
I actually
college
like a good
football
acronym
name.
first name. I like a good AJ, PJ.
Do you think that's where his obsession with acronyms came from? He was
Wow.
PJ his whole life, so he loved to create other ones?
Makes sense.
PJ Fleck does sound like a person who... I want to paint the picture visually of what PJ Fleck sounds like, because what he sounds like, I think, is what he looks like, too. So, Lucy, you've encountered this man before. Paint the picture of PJ Fleck for the audience, please.
He is not the tallest man in the world. He's probably 5'7". He is bald, bald. There's not any hair on the head. He's really fit, and he's always so energetic that even for me, I'm you need to chill out. That's a little too much.
It does, according to Google, list PJ Fleck at 5'10".
Which you have to subtract 2
Right.
usually, unless it's a really tall person like Victor Wembanyama, and then you have to add 2.
Yeah, height listings on... As a person who is 5'10" and 3/4, according to my physical examination...
3/4 is super important.
It's very
if you're
important.
a man under 6 foot.
Thank you.
Yes.
So you're
Yep.
5'9".
No, I'm 5'10" and 3/4. I'll stand up in front of a giant ruler.
Are we the same height? Because I've always said I'm 5'11", but I believe I'm just under it. So we might be the same height.
I think we might be.
Yeah. As I stood next to you the other day at the soccer game, I feel like we are, now that I think about it. I'm
Do
just thinking when I
people-
looked right.
Do people encounter you, Chris, in the world, and they're like, "Oh, you're taller than I thought"?
No, I get skinnier because my name's Fat Chris. So I generally get, "Wow, you're not fat. You're just," and I'm like, it's debatable. But that's what I get more. It makes me. It's honestly one of my favorite things. Is, hey, Chris, good to meet you. He's not that fat. Thank you.
Roy's judgmental. Huh. Said a lot there.
What's up, Roy? What do you get in public, Roy? Like when people meet you?
Probably I'm taller than what they thought.
We are a tall show.
I get that a lot.
Mhm.
I get that a lot. I think
That other people are tall?
yeah,
You get a lot that the Le Batard's a tall show.
those people. All
What do you mean
skinnier
those
than you
people?
think. Those people. I get a lot of "you're taller than I thought," which is a real mixed compliment because it indicates that
You do give off short.
that's not great. That's not great, Chris. It's not good when the truth of me is more impressive in reality because the number of people who meet me in reality is a fraction of the number of people who encounter me in the medium in which, quote, I give short.
What's the best example of this in like media or maybe just celebrity of somebody who is way shorter or taller than we expect them to be?
Well, we went through it a bit when Mina Kimes stood next to Bryce Young, and it sort of affected his draft stock for a bit. And people are like, holy
Affected his draft
shit.
stock until he was drafted first overall.
He's a real underdog story. Mina was wearing heels, is what Bryce Young had to say via his agent.
Would you like some of my nominations for other bad names of college
Chris.
coaches?
Great producing.
Thank you. This one, I don't feel that strongly about him. I could put this one at number 4. Matt Rule, because he has an H in it.
Wait, are we doing a top 5?
No, I don't have 5.
I have a 5 for
All
you.
right, let's do number
the
5.
fanfare
You'll be
ready.
number
Chris.
This will be number 4.
Great producing.
Thank you. Number 5, Matt Rule, because there's an H in it. It's just like he has to get that. Like, why is your name's Rule?
Rule, like-
Rule.
Yeah.
Number 4,
Biff Poggi.
Who is Biff Poggi?
He's the head coach at Charlotte. My friend.
number 3, Luke Fickle.
Because, like, is your personality
Yeah.
fickle?
Just unsure.
But there's 2 L's.
Right. Whatever.
So you just came up with that on the fly just now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number
Good
2,
Good producing, Chris.
PJ Fleck. And number 1, Sonny Cumby. Louisiana Tech coach. Suncum.
Cumby. It's a weird name.
I mean, yeah.
And it's an IE.
Cumby.
Coach Cumby.
Coach Cumby. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that one. So another acronym that PJ Fleck was using, family. F.A.M.I.L.Y.
We got that part. Thank you for.
Forget about me.
Great producing.
I love you.
I like that he was like, ILY Illy. All right, I'll keep that one. What should I make the first
There's a
part?
little Chris Cody in PJ Fleck now that we're sounding all of this out.
What's wrong with that?
Huh.
So, to the point that we were raising earlier, I am looking through this front office sports story, which again is worth reading, even as we're growing numb to all of these allegations, all of these sources that are just former players that are legion in college football. As everybody is sort of like looking back on their time and thinking, was that toxic? And in fact, yes, the people in charge of the University of Minnesota, the athletic department, they say that PJ Fleck is a guy that they stand by. They don't feel like this is an ouster. Mark Coyle, the athletic director, said, PJ and our program are unique. They put themselves out there in new and different ways, but always in a first-class manner. After nearly 7 years, it's clear to me that is what makes PJ and our program so successful.
So what?
They never beat Iowa. Literally, I don't think PJ Fleck ever has.
So what happens from here? Do we get more stories like this? Does the Fleck Bank get shut down? Like, to what extent is there enough humiliation to change any of the things that we consider humiliating?
The timing of this is perfect because today is Big Ten Media Days. We will hear from PJ Fleck today. So we will get his response, which he loves to talk. So I have a hard time believing he's not going to say anything.
I want to hear from Arash.
Can we get
Caller.
Arash?
I mean, it's just like, this is his day.
I know.
Who would have thought 10 years ago when he was way ahead of his time with PJ Fleck's a Bozo. And we were always just like random coach to just kind of take a shot at, but it was his thing, and we liked it. And look at him. He's got to be a fist pump.
Was he like an Eastern Michigan fan or something?
I think he lived in New York. I
fan?
don't know.
I think he was in New York. What was Arash's username? Because I believe Arash used to send me tweets. And I'm trying to look for those tweets. I'm trying to get the Arash oeuvre to figure out what else he had in his bag of prophecies.
That's the get of all gets today in sports. Arash, the Le Batard Show caller.
Can you explain Arash? Because I think there are a lot of people. You guys, we are in this big fancy studio in a new building in Miami. It's Meadowlark Media now. Arash is from an era that predated all of this, and I don't want to presume that even people in the local hour know his legend.
You're right. Most people probably don't. Jess is looking at me like, what the hell are you guys talking about?
Lucy is new here.
We used to take calls. It would just be like, the local hour would just be like Mike, me, Billy, Roy, and it would just be, and then we would take calls, and it was just fun. We had a community of callers, Arash being one of them, Steak Sauce, of course.
Yeah.
Morgan from Australia. It was it was a time in our show, and we still get a lot of tweets, longing for calls. That's a Billy specialty. You can't do calls without Billy because no one can keep a caller on the line too long like Billy.
Well, actually, you can't do calls at all because we don't have phone lines.
That's also another hurdle we're getting over.
Yeah. Are we bringing back a landline?
Do you guys miss doing calls? It seems kind of like a little dangerous game.
It was dangerous, and like I said with Billy, like there would be times when some of us are like, I think we should move on from this call, and Billy would be like, no, I think
What'd
we
you
should
have for
stay
breakfast?
Here. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just like, what do you think? Like he'll ask some crazy follow up, but it was Billy being Billy. I miss Billy.
How's Billy doing? I feel like we have not talked enough about how Billy has a new
Another
child.
I think it's going well. I mean, I've just shared a few texts with him. I haven't, I'm letting him have his space at this time. But I believe he's expected
what
back.
Was that?
What?
I'm letting him have his space at this time.
I'm not like bombarding him daily.
We're not making him go to a 24-hour live marathon 4 days after the birth of his first child.
Why did Chris sound like he was writing a press release for a college football coach who just got shamed by a front office sports article?
I don't know why.
I think what he said was appropriate.
Yeah, I get
Anytime someone says, I'm giving him the phrase, I'm giving space in this time, I think it's the in this time as well as the space.
I'm not proud of it. I was just kind of scrambling. Like, it's not a sentence I would normally say. Like, it's a great call out by you. But I stand by the sentiment of it. And now I'm just talking weird. Back to you.
I do want to say congratulations to Billy. We miss him around here. I've been hosting shows, and I'm like, oh, there's a void in which I could feel a lack of energy that could only be filled by a person who wants to keep a caller on a line for way too long.
Well, that was my impression of Billy.
That was?
Lucy, can you be Billy for this show today?
Just be pessimistic, right?
Yeah. Just,
I can I can
But
do
also ramble about something really weird that is kind of vaguely interesting that we think will get more interesting but then doesn't.
What's the most obscure thing that's happened to you the last couple days?
Most obscure thing?
Like you were in an elevator and then like a button thing happened. You like push
Or
A button thing.
say something mean about Tony.
Yeah.
I like Tony.
This
You're
is
not-
a
that's bad, Billy.
I'm not a good
Real
Billy.
bad.
I'm not a good
Not
Billy.
a very good Billy impression there. No.
First words, I like Tony. No, that's Billy would never
Not
say
gonna
that.
cut
The
it.
complete opposite of Guillermo.
Nice try, though.
What I do think Billy and Lucy have in common, though, is a certain personable aspect. Because I don't know, would Billy be the type of person to find a potential best friend on Bumble Best Friend? Is that the name of the app, Lucy?
I like Billy. Would like the idea of it. He would join the app, but then he would swipe no for everyone because he'd be afraid. He would just think, no, this person won't like me. No, they won't like me. He's like doing it on himself. He's basically assessing himself from the person he's looking at's point of view. And he's just like, they would never like me. They would never like me. They would. So he's swiping no to everyone, but based on what they think of him.
I also don't get the impression he wants to make new friends.
No.
He seems content.
He is. He's like, come in, get home, no socializing.
No, even if he was discontent, he wouldn't want to make new friends.
Sad.
SAD.
Earlier
Stupid and dumb.
Earlier in the week, we talked about how Lucy is, in fact, in that way, the opposite of Billy Gill. She is actively seeking out best friends. She is surfing. I don't know if you. What do you surf in the world of apps? Do you surf the app net? She is on apps looking for a best friend. And there's an uncomfortable moment where we had to figure out Lucy sending this text to a potential best friend that she just went on a best friend date with. Would she get a response back? And Lucy Rodin, how is that friendship going?
I have plans tonight. I got a text back. Look at me, so many friends. I'm so popular. It's insane.
More on Lucy Rodin's best friend after the break. The vibes continue to be good when Chris Cody is our executive producer. We should all admit this.
You're right. The vibes are great when I'm in charge.
Good producing, Chris.
I love Chris Cody.
I think we all do. He sits in that chair. He has a vague idea of how this job works. But he's always smiling, and that makes me feel better as I sit alone on the other side of the glass, talking about...
What's it like being in that room alone?
It's pretty lonely.
Yeah.
Amin is here.
Yeah.
One of the things that I have resisted the urge to feel like Dan in any way as I sit in this chair. My whole goal as a substitute teacher is to bring the opposite vibes of Dan. I love Dan. Had dinner with Dan last night. Dan, I hope you're enjoying your vacation from the show.
Who paid?
When I say dinner, we mostly just ate chips at his apartment. Actually, we didn't even get food, really. I just ate a lot of his chips.
So you wanted to make the evening you had with him seem cooler.
Yeah, I did.
By saying you went to dinner with him.
Yeah.
No, I think by saying you went to his apartment, now you think you seem like you're in the inner
So you were trying to
circle.
make it seem less cool. It was so cool that you're like, I can't say I was eating chips next to Dan's wall waterfall.
Look at me,
How is his like? Is there any new additions?
There are
to
more
his-
Koi?
plants.
More koi?
There are more
in the
plants.
pond?
You have him with a koi pond?
Yeah, obviously.
What do you guys think Dan's apartment is like?
Well, I've heard that there's a waterfall in it.
There is a waterfall.
Koi pond?
A wall of water, at least.
So I've been in it. So yeah, you're right. There is a waterfall on the wall.
Oh.
Been in it?
Yeah.
look at me,
I'm just like, because I'm picturing it being this thing you can't even get in, and I'm picturing Roy walking in his living room just taking off his shirt like it's a pool day. It's like, Roy, it's
Honestly,
No,
I'm
seriously
picturing
not.
a lot of cats.
There is one cat.
No, there's like 5 or 6.
Well, the cat's relatively new though. Like he's really a dog
Cats
person.
plural.
The cats came with the relationship.
Then there's the dog that he brings to Publix.
I didn't know. Dan.
He's a dog bringer.
Dan's a dog bringer.
So am
Yeah.
I, so can't judge.
Into Publix?
She's never been in Publix.
Right.
But she's been shopping in a lot of stores.
I'm not like even judging that. It's just something. It's just a note.
You can judge
It's
it.
just a note.
He also let his dog poop in Publix. Yeah. Remember?
Oh, wait, what was that? I missed that one.
Not public.
It definitely happened.
Publix.
That was him. Wow.
So Dan's apartment does have a wall of water. It does have a pool table with blue felt. It does have a cat. It does have a dog. It does have various arcade games. It does have a view of the beach.
Now, there's an important question about this pool table. Is it used as just storage? Is there just shit all over it? Or is there just like, is the rack set and it's like the white balls there? It's like ready to go.
You have Dan sitting like right next to it, waiting for someone with a pool cue, just like chalking his pool cue.
No, I just imagine it's like.
Yeah, it's covered in garbage. Yeah, it's covered in stuff. Yeah. Totally unusable.
Cat hair.
Lucy, as we pivot from Dan's, I feel bad how much I did on Dan's apartment just then. I felt like I just broke a trust.
No. We've done hours on Dan's.
Oh, right, his bidet.
Yeah.
He does have a bidet.
Yeah.
So, by the way,
how does this work when you have a bidet? Like, can anyone use my bidet, or my bidet is for me only?
Great question. I was
I've never used a
afraid
bidet.
to use
There, I
Dan's
said it.
bidet.
I've never used one.
Chris.
I've been in
Are
hotels.
you scared of them?
It's a little intimidating. I've been in hotels that have them, and I've just been too afraid. And it's not something you can like have someone walk you through. You just got to be alone with a bidet.
You haven't YouTubed like how to use bidet?
What do you have me for? What kind of person do you think I am? I'm the kind of guy. I'm not a big YouTube. Unless I'm like building something, I'll try it. I'll see how it goes. It's a last resort for me to like, YouTube. Let's plop this video up. All right, step 1. I hate these videos. These YouTube videos that are just how to do the most mundane things. It's just annoying. Hey, thank you for joining my channel today. Please subscribe so we can keep giving you videos just like this. It's just always annoying, those videos.
YouTube.com/LeBatard.
Yeah, subscribe to our shit, but like.
Speaking of how to use a
Not
bidet.
much of a DIYer, I guess.
Chris, I will teach you how to use a bidet. Part of my goal here as an American citizen is to spread the religion of the Japanese toilet. The bidet is one thing, okay? And I can teach you how to use that. But to me, the perfect evolution of the toilet is the Japanese toilet. Why is Roy laughing?
I'm talking to Lewis. Apparently, a lot of us in this studio are not very do-it-yourself savvy.
You don't say.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm the only one.
What do you do yourself?
Well, I can fix door locks. I can build shelves, and that sort of thing.
You can fix door locks.
I
I
love
kind of
Roy.
need that right now, honestly. My front door's
Yeah.
been all like shimmy. I gotta like shimmy it to get it open.
Yeah. My doorknob is actually shaking right now. I got to get that fixed.
Riveting
I can-
stuff, guys.
Well, I got pulled into this conversation because of Pablo. So.
I did. Good producing
It
by
is
me.
Pablo's fault.
Yeah.
A Japanese toilet, okay? We should all have them. A Japanese toilet is a toilet that sprays water at your butt so that you don't need to get up.
How many miles per hour?
It's variable. There are different speeds. There are multiple speeds. You can choose the speed at which the water fires at your butt.
You seem like a 3/4 guy.
Yeah. I put the pedal to the metal. But it's I wake up,
Splash.
that happens, and it saves me time. I feel great. I just don't know why we're not doing it collectively as a nation. Like, we have to moisten the toilet paper at some point. Why don't we just cut out the middleman? Tell me why Japanese toilets shouldn't be everywhere. It saves time. It's easier. It's healthier.
I'm not sure if there's a reason other than American laziness and
That
dirtiness.
YouTube video will crush, though, of you vividly showing me how to use a bidet.
All right, we're going to do that on youtube.com/LeBatard and Friends later. Lucy, when you go on a best friend date and you don't know how to follow up, tell me about your strategy for a successful follow-up date.
Well, I'm usually pretty good at the follow up. Like, I don't mind texting somebody, even if I did it the first time. So I'll just straight up and ask. It's really not that hard. It's like if you want to see somebody again, just ask them to do stuff.
This is a key distinction, I think, between Lucy and a lot of people.
It's not rocket science.
Social interaction.
Just a true enthusiasm for the unknown, putting yourself out there, risking the fact that maybe they don't like the fact that Lucy Rodin has a collection of objects in her apartment that does resemble a Fuddruckers.
If they don't like that, I don't want to be friends with them.
She didn't get the high heel chair, though.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Chris. Thanks.
She tried to. She has a gumball machine. She has a large crayon, and she went thrifting I follow her on Instagram, this past weekend, and she went to this place and she saw this high heel chair for what, $100?
110.
$110, but she's like, you can't pay over $100 for something at a thrift store. So she left, but then the internet's like, you got to get that. You're gonna miss out. You can't miss out on this opportunity. So she went back, and some lady was currently like, she saw a lady walking out with the chair. She missed it.
I
Then she
hate
looked
her.
online and found much better conditioned chairs of the same chair, but not as, much more expensive. So it's just, she's in a real pickle right now. Does she overpay for that same chair somewhere else? Does she just wait till the next good chair?
When you said she's in a real pickle right now, I imagined her sitting in a giant pickle chair.
Well, if they have those, she'll buy that too. I'm just saying. What other chairs did they have in the chair section?
They had nothing cool. I will say one of the more surprising and delightful parts of starting this job is every single time any of the listeners see a weird chair online, they send it to me. So I got tagged in this like Raising Cane's bread chair picture like 50 times yesterday.
Wow, that
it's
bread's so
really
good.
cool.
I haven't
sit in
seen the
that
bread chair.
I haven't either, but I love that bread at that place. So
As Lucy goes and finds a picture of the bread chair to show us and our video team, I do want to point out that the range of collections that people have never cease to amaze me.
there are a lot of like weird collections out there. Some alarming, some normal. The chair, like you can't be a chair collector though. If you have a lot of too many, like you don't want to have too many different types of chairs.
I just think too many of anything is weird. And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's weird.
What is the most alarming thing you can collect?
Well, like, what does PJ Fleck collect?
Fleck
PJ
bucks.
Fleck,
Acronyms.
collector of all of these things. What does he got?
There was a tweet once about him having a very expensive knife set that has now been deleted, and I'm trying to find it because there were, for some reason, when the story came out yesterday, I was like, I remember him being a expensive knife guy, which is kind of like, on the one hand, like I have a couple expensive knives that when you have one really good knife or two really good knives, you don't need other knives.
Right.
Like that's all you need. And I got one as a gift. And so I get having a expensive knife. I don't really understand having multiple expensive knives. And so that is something I'd file under, if it's true, which I do not know, a strange collection.
Kind of like having a bunch of ninja stars.
Well, obviously, like the obvious ones are if you collect like a bunch of like odd weapons or like body part. Like obviously, there are some obvious weird. Like we're trying to come up with what is the oddest thing you can collect, and we're eliminating body parts and weapons.
We're eliminating Chris Whittingham's entire contents of his apartment.
Everything Chris Whittingham collects, that's obviously weird. What's the more obscure thing that you could collect that'd be like, that's interesting? Like, what if I was a pineapple collector? Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I
Well,
feel
that's
like,
upside down in my shopping cart.
Oh,
So
okay.
I've heard.
Yeah.
I feel like the old timey example is the stamp collectors, and I feel like if you collect stamps in this day and age, like that's really weird.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Part of my estate sale journey is you get to see people's collection. So like one time I
Yes.
went to a house and it was all birds. Everything there was like bird shaped and like little bird figurines. The ones that always weird me out are the very old like Victorian doll collections. They'll have like hundreds of them lining the wall and they make you so uncomfortable.
My mom does these like weird like pig things. She's got these like this like whole shelf glass and case, like this glass case with shelves of just these little tiny like pig little
She
figurines.
collects pig figurines?
Yeah, like they're breakable. Like they're I don't know words.
So there is like that category of people who collect certain like ceramic figurines, or
Yes,
crystal
we've been to those
figurines.
houses,
That's
right?
my
We all
mom.
have.
Yeah.
Like, there's the display case. It's glass. It is protected as if it's a museum piece. And you look inside, and it's like tiny,
just useless.
useless knickknacks.
Right. I had a friend growing up who her grandmother collected all of those kind of tiny crystalline little figures and gave them to my friend. And that was a mistake because we were wrestling once in her room and we accidentally knocked over. Yeah, like we used to beat each other up. It was a whole thing. It was like girls
You
on my
were
soccer
running
team.
a toxic culture inside of your soccer
Being
team.
a teen girl is a very, we used to fight. And we knocked them all over and they shattered. And it was heartbreaking and devastating to her family.
They're breakable, to quote Chris Cody.
You're better with words than I am.
Not today. a little bit of cleanup. Arash from New York, at Arash from New York, has been, in fact, tweeting me this entire time. He tweeted me yesterday. He taunted me.
So he's listening? He heard all this? I'm so glad. That makes me happy.
He did hear all this. What he said to me was in response to the bagel picture. And he taunted me about how I was transforming into the Pillsbury
Roy, it's
Doughboy.
not that funny. Roy's just laughing
I
at
love
me.
Roy so much.
He's never made a mistake before this. Roy
I've never
Bellamy.
seen
No,
Roy this happy.
don't get defensive over there. No, don't you dare get defensive over
Just
there.
living my life.
Heard.
Back to Arash.
Arash has been taunting me. I want Arash to know, if he's listening out there, that we want him to figure out a way to call in. We'll put him on speakerphone. I want him to have his moment in the sun. When people in this community, I'm going to follow Arash back, number one. And I want him to have his moment in the sun because he was a prophet on a story that, in fact, has been a top story in sports today. Another top story in sports today in the world of college football is Colorado and the Big 12. Now, Colorado and the Big 12, on paper, that headline sounds boring as hell. It's like, I say this as somebody who's like, oh, college football realignment again? Great.
It is like not the most riveting topic, especially because they won't actually be playing in that conference for another year or so.
So can you explain to me what Lucy Rodine finds interesting about Colorado and the Big 12, such that when I came into the office today, you were like, I got you on Colorado and the Big 12.
I think what's so interesting about it is we saw everything sort of start with Texas and Oklahoma leaving for the SEC. This is another one of those, tipping point events where if you think Colorado's the only team from the Pac-12 that's going to move to the Big 12, that's just not going to happen. You're going to see, I think, 3 other teams, Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah, all jump ship and go to the Big 12 now. And watching the demise of the Pac-12, I don't know why it makes me happy in a weird way, just because it's funny. But it is really funny.
But it's kind of sad.
It is a little
It's sad how pathetic it is, right?
It's wild to watch the way a conference just sort of imploded the way the Pac-12 did. And you're seeing that continue on with Colorado leaving this conference that last week their commissioner came out and said, nobody's leaving. We're very confident that everyone's going to stay. And then literally a week later, Colorado's like, haha, peace out, we're gone.
But didn't the Pac-12, they went under this, every conference, right? Like, what they're trying to figure out is, how are we a modern business in this changing sports landscape? TV media rights deals are adjusting. There is a great centralization when it comes to super conferences. Obviously, they want to get more money in exchange for these media rights. And so how would you say the Pac-12 has adjusted to this? What has their strategy been, and why has it been a thing that you just point at and laugh at now?
Their strategy has been let's do the dumbest thing possible. I feel very bad for their current commissioner, George Kliavkoff, because he's not the one who's messed everything up.
Who are we blaming here?
Larry Scott was the Pac-12 commissioner before Kliavkoff, and he was so bad at his job. He took what was a conference that should have had the best TV rights deals and turned it into this just giant failure of an operation with trying to create this Pac-12 network where you couldn't even watch the games. It was a whole just terrible system, so much so that USC, UCLA left for the Big Ten because that's where the money is. And now you're seeing every other program leave because the Pac-12 still does not have a media deal yet. And they keep saying, don't worry, it's going to come. The longer we wait, the better it's going to get. That's not how that works. You think, I don't feel confident that you're just waiting for the right offer. Nobody wants you.
And so where does the Pac-12 wind up? In the musical chairs of media rights deals, where you have buyers, certainly with ESPN, Fox, what does the Pac-12 do at this point? If Lucy, you're advising the Pac-12, what as a social media, internet savvy young person, where are you putting the Pac-12 media rights deal?
You just need to take the next offer that comes, honestly, because ESPN and Fox are both going to give them pretty lowball deals, but that's about all you have right now, because we're hearing rumors that it could be on Ion Network, and even with their last negotiations, there was something about them trying to get on Discovery, and Discovery didn't want them. You don't have this wide space of opportunities that you think you do. Nobody is asking you to the prom. You need to go out and just be forward and take the invite.
Just take your cousin to prom. It's going to be fine. No one will know.
This seems like a Pac-12 thing to do, honestly.
We
Not an SEC thing.
have to
Little
reckon.
SEC.
We have
Maybe
to
Washington
reckon.
State.
Roy.
We well played, Roy. We have to reckon with prom etiquette now. How has the prom been? So the idea of the prom, it feels like as American institutions go, the prom has been a thing that has changed very little. Is that fair to say? Like the whole notion of there is one event and you are building up to it, and if you don't have a date, you probably want to consider taking a cousin because it's actually less embarrassing to have a cousin as opposed to no one. Are these references, like I grew up watching movies about proms, it informed how I felt about my prom, and now I'm wondering if all kids today are still living the same sorts of expectations.
I feel like they are. My brother was he'd like just graduated high school like 2 years ago. He was at COVID prom, so they had like it wasn't even a real prom. Some rich parents threw a prom for everyone because they weren't allowed to have one.
Top movies with prom in it. What are your go-to? And I just like hit you with that.
Can't hardly wait.
Does Back to the
Solid.
Future count?
Yes, absolutely.
Mean Girls.
Lady
I put in
Bird.
there. Grease.
Take me inside Chris Cody's prom.
I went with a friend. I didn't have a date. It was kind of it was kind of like a pity.
It's a safe space, Chris.
No. It was like
So you were the Pac-12 and she was Ion, I guess?
it was like there was a group of friends and I was like I wasn't even gonna go, and then one of my friends in the group was just like, hey, do you have I'll go with you if you want. And I was like, all right, we'll go. And I just went with a friend. And then I left after. I went and hung out with my own. I had friends outside of my high school. Did anyone have this where it's
Definitely.
I had my in-school friends, but the people I actually hung out with on the weekend were more outside of school friends. So I had this weird thing. It's I didn't really want to go to prom because my crew was not really at my school. So it was she was like, I'll go with you.
Did you
and I
ever
was like,
consider going to that school's prom?
I did. I did go to another.
both.
I did go to another prom actually with the girl I was.
Look at me,
I went to 3 proms.
Wow. So you're like the opposite of me.
Of course you did.
I just had a lot of friends. That has changed.
Did you go? Did you like me? Did you ever go with someone as just a friend?
I think all my prom dates were just
Right. That's
friends,
why.
yeah.
I think that's more common than. People
Although
think.
they're now finding that out.
Oh, they thought. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think she came to me with the hey, we could just go as friends thing. So I don't think she thought I was being weird about it. But that's usually the way it is.
But my point that I'm bringing up is that even in Chris telling that story, there is a realm of vulnerability that he just re-entered to remember this. Like I myself, right? I took my brother-in-law's sister's friend.
So you did the same type thing.
I'm not above this. I'm not above this, guys.
We all just want to be a part of the thing.
We just want to be just present enough to not be embarrassed. Period.
It was awkward. The picture time was a little awkward.
Yeah, what okay,
Because,
what was
I
your
was
approach?
with other people that were all dating. It was there was 8 of us in this limo, 3 couples, and me and this girl that were just friends. So it's the pictures, there was just a different vibe with our picture. The 3 of them were all snuggled, and we're just more kind of we're taking a team picture together, next to each other, but not connected.
You're kneeling, holding a
The
basketball.
prom
Right.
stance is never
Right, and then
it
there's
doesn't look cute for anyone.
I still got her a corsage, so it's I felt weird.
corsage.
You got her a croissant?
Like a
corsage.
croissant
Did I put an arm?
shaped
She wasn't
I am
hungry?
hungry.
corsage.
Like I said, I know how things are supposed to be said, but I say them wrong. I know it's corsage.
Right.
It's corsage, right?
Sure.
There's no art.
I
Corsage.
thought it was corsage.
That's what I like. That's why you guys are making me.
I mean, I thought you
Originally,
said
I
it like
said
it was a
croissage,
French
my bad.
laminated.
You
dough
had it as a
pastry.
thing that Lucy Rodin would have in a display case in her home.
Corsage.
A croissant
There you go.
shaped corsage.
Sorry,
I
I know
would
how
buy
things
that.
are said, but then I just say them poorly. I'm telling
Right. Yeah, we heard that already. Yeah.
But the point is,
Mm-hmm.
Chris, that we've all come from a place of vulnerability. We felt the pressure. And the pressure of a photo at prom. Did you guys see the video? Oh God, I'm doing this to the video department and I apologize. But there's the video of Simu Liu and Ryan Gosling at the Barbie red carpet. You saw this video?
I did see this on Twitter. He was like, "Take your hand off my lower back," kind of
Simu
thing.
Liu went to do the thing where he put his hand behind Ryan Gosling's lower back to establish that we are, in fact, close personal friends who do this, intimacy. And Ryan Gosling on the red carpet did something that I was trying to figure out if it had any sense of humor behind it. It actually just felt like you really doing that, dude? And Simu took the hand back, and I felt a degree of secondhand cringe that I've seldom felt in my life. Wow. Photo posing is hard, man. Especially when you have to shrink back because the alpha in that dynamic says we're not doing that here.
I was on my cruise doing the family stuff, and like the person taking the pictures is like trying to like coach me. It's like, put your hand here, put the hand in the pocket. It's just like awkward. I never know what to do with the one hand that goes around the family.
What's your move, Chris?
So I'm generally like just a hand in the pocket, but then my hand always looks really fat because I don't put it fully in the pocket. So it's like
only you gotta go thumb in the pocket.
Right, but then sometimes only my fingers are in there, but I guess just the thumb too. But I don't know, man. It's always awkward. Maybe the hip, hand on the hip. Arms folded,
so
Roy's saying.
Is Ryan Gosling ESPN and Simu Liu is the Pac-12, and he's trying to get close, and ESPN saying, no, we actually don't want you that close to us. In fact, we don't care about you at all.
I think that is a compliment to the Pac-12.
That's true. He's a very attractive man.
I do want to know what Roy's photo approach is. Roy, how are you posing? What pose are you striking?
All right. Well, it depends on the person next to me. If there is a person next to me, if it's just me, I'm just like, whatever. But if the person decides to put his arm around my shoulder, then I got to reciprocate. I got to do the same thing. If not, arms folded, or maybe hands in front or hands behind my back, something like that.
The photo where both people have arms over the shoulders is never a good look, though.
It always looks like the
It's
fake like photo that's in a flashback in a show where someone goes missing, and it's like, oh, look at these two friends hanging out like friends do with their arms over the other
back to
person's
the
shoulder.
Roy, a little advice: when they go over your shoulder, you go around their hip. Hip action.
Don't think that's.
You don't have to make. There doesn't have to be contact, but that's just where the hand actually is. I'm not saying grab. I'm just saying rest the hand a little around the waist.
All right, I keep it under advisement.
There you go.
Thank you for pantomiming the grab, Chris.
It's always awkward. Me and Jess will do it right now. See, it's like this is just like a weird photo. Like it's never.
I think I just tore my rotator.
Yeah.
cuff.